Hello, thanks for listening. Today I'll be talking about the boogeyman. The boogeyman is a mythical monster that's used extensively around the world to evoke fear into the minds of children so they're kept on their best behavior. Its exact origins are unclear, and a lot of different cultures have words that relate back to the meaning of boogeyman. For example, its most commonly believed origin comes from the Middle English word bogey, spelled Boggge, meaning hobgoblin. There's also other examples like bogey from Scotland or bowman, which is Dutch, which all have similar meanings. So, what is the boogeyman? The general idea is a creature that lurks in the shadows at night and preys on victims, specifically children, who are disobedient and don't listen to their parents. In some cultures, the boogeyman just scares the children, and then in other cultures, the boogeyman will actually sneak into the children's homes and kidnap them and either kill them, torture them, or just terrorize them until they behave. So, some examples of the boogeyman around the world would include ones like the sack man, which is used in a lot of Latin countries like Brazil and Portugal. And the sack man is used to scare children into behaving, or else he'll put them in the sack that he carries on his back and kidnap them. Another example would be El Coco, which is used in Spain. Parents use different lullabies or tell rhymes to their children, hoping to instill fear in them, warning them that if they don't sleep, El Coco will come to get them. And another example would be the Madariel. Sorry if I said that wrong, but that's a creature that was created in Afghanistan. And it's described as being a nocturnal hag that kills infants in their cribs and invokes to get children to sleep and behave while they're in their rooms. So with all of these different boogeymen around the world, they're all used as teaching tools and designed to maintain social order with children. And so the idea of it is if you behave, then the boogeyman won't come because he's only called upon if there's bad behavior going on. And so the good children have nothing to fear. And since the boogeyman is used so extensively around the world, there's no solid uniform appearance. So in some cultures, the boogeyman may have horns and long claws and fangs. Or in other cultures, they may signify a more human-like appearance, which would be used to teach children different skills about interacting with adults and other people. And then there's other boogeymen who resemble a figure sort of similar to the devil, which may be used for more religious type lessons. So, going back to the purpose of the boogeyman in society, especially as children, our parents are the most significant force and authority in our lives, and they're typically able to tell us right from wrong and sort of correct any bad mistakes or situations we're put in. But the idea of the boogeyman is that they come when our parents aren't around, or they're somehow powerless to stop it because they can't see him because they're adults. So, since the boogeyman only comes when our parents aren't around, this moment is when we're supposed to stand up and assert ourselves as people who follow the social order in that society. And we ourselves need to be able to sort of admit and correct any misdoings we have done in order to banish the boogeyman. And these lessons we learn as children often carry on throughout adulthood in situations where you just turn the light off in the basement and you're running upstairs as fast as possible. Even though you know something's not there, you always have the slight fear that something is lurking there and believe that whatever is there should be feared. And so now I'm going to talk about boogeymen and the use of them in different films and stories. So some famous boogeymen include Oogie Boogie, who is the villain in Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas movie. Another boogeyman that really scared me personally as a child was the boogeyman in the Don't Look Under the Bed by Disney. All the boogeymen in that movie are imaginary friends who children stopped believing in too soon. And then now they wreak havoc on those children and their town as a result of that. Two other people who could actually be seen as boogeymen as well would be Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees, because in those movies, they're seen as forces who dole out punishment for different moral and social aggressions during the time, like the promiscuity of teenagers, drinking, smoking, and even murder. And the only reason these two individuals do come up and start wreaking havoc by the actions that all of the teenagers were doing, it called them into being. So these two situations are true of all boogeymen, where they come to serve a purpose. The boogeyman in modern day society and Canada still exists in its traditional context of scaring children into behaving, but it also exists in a sense where it's used as a term to describe any sort of situation that has a sense of uncertainty or fear. For example, Donald Trump and the Republican Party have been known to disagree with our healthcare system and describe it as something scary, flawed, and monstrous. Since he doesn't want the healthcare, he tries to make it sound as something horrible as possible, which has resulted in Canada's healthcare system acquiring the term boogeyman for any type of politics south of the border when they're trying to push away the idea of universal healthcare. Other examples of boogeymen in the current context of Canada include describing refugees as a certain type of boogeyman, because some Canadians see them as a sort of monstrous type figure who's lurking in the background trying to steal Canada and its traditional values. And then a third example could be the idea of referring to people who take part in different extremist groups or other groups like white supremacy or male supremacy, in which they are trying to push a very strong agenda and refuse to acknowledge any sort of info that they don't agree with. So they are right, everybody else is wrong, and they fight to, create different laws and to banish things they don't like, which could definitely relate back to the idea of a boogeyman and how he punishes bad children for doing things that they shouldn't be doing. So, throughout history and different parts of the world, the boogeyman has been used to set different moral standards, and it's unique to each and every one of us. And through different folklore and movies, stories, games, and songs, the boogeyman is still very present and still exists as one of the most well-known and feared creatures of all time, and still will exist for many more years to come.
Children, have you ever met the bogeyman before? No, of course you haven't, for you're much too good, I'm sure. Don't you be afraid of him if he should visit you. He's a great big coward, so I'll tell you what to do. Hush, 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 here comes the bogeyman. Don't let him come too close to you, he'll catch you if he can.